everyone, and welcome to another video. So in the last video I was setting up Proxmox Backup Server on a virtual machine on my main server, and I did set up some funky stuff where I did some iSCSI pass-through where the virtual machines are dependent on each other. And I just remembered I have this little old Asus VAIO, I think it is, mini PC. It's really old, and I thought, I don't have a use for it. I could use it as a Proxmox backup server. I was contemplating between using this and then using a Lenovo Tiny PC. It's a 4th gen Intel i5 and it has 8 gigs of RAM. But the main problem with that is that it only has a 2.5-inch hard drive slots, whereas this one has a 3.5-inch hard drive slot. And I only have a 2.5-inch 1 terabyte hard drive. And on my Proxmox server I use, well, I don't use 2 terabytes, but I have a 2 terabyte NVMe and I want to be able to back up all of it. And speaking of hard drives, I have this pretty massive box of various assortments of hard drives. And this is the one I was talking about. It's a 1 terabyte, the one that I took out of my PS3. It's a Seagate, and it would be nice to have it at a tiny Lenovo, but it's maybe a bit too small. But down under some of these old hard drives, I do have some that are actually still worth something. And these are 4 terabyte Seagate Iron Wolf. These are pretty much the first NAS hard drives I had when I originally set up my Plex server, basically 10 years ago at this point. So this one is the second one I got, and then this is the first one that I got. And yeah, they're just 4 terabyte Iron Wolves, and they're from like 2016. So getting old at this point, but they should still work, I think. And yeah, I think I'm gonna start with the oldest one, and then I can leave the good one. Well, they're maybe only a year apart, I think, maybe even less. I could look at the date, but I can't be bothered. And now we're finished with this one. But before we install the hard drive, I think it would be a pretty good idea just to make sure that this actually works. Because I haven't had this powered on for 5 years, 6 years maybe. I used it as a server once a while back when I had my HP Pavilion as my primary server. I did run some other stuff on this guy because my HP only had 8 gigs of RAM, and I could put random laptop RAM into this one and have 12 gigs, I think it had. Right now I think it has 1 stick in it. But yeah, we'll just power it on and see if it works to begin with. Oh, we might just have a look at the ports first. So it has 2 USB 3s, it has gigabit Ethernet, VGA, HDMI, and 4 USB 2s, and then an SD card reader. And it would be nice if you could install Proxmox Backup Server on a USB stick, but I don't think that's officially supported. And so I'm just going to install it on the hard drive and then not have like a separate data store. I'm just going to put the data store on the hard drive. And let's power it on, see if something happens. Not much. I don't really hear anything. It's not doing anything. Okay, so far it ain't looking good. Oh, something happened. I unplugged it and plugged it back in, and it beeped. So clearly it does have some issues. It is beeping, and basically the way you open this up is there's a little button on the back side, and maybe I should just unplug it. There's a little switch on the back side which you can put up and down, and when it's in the down position the lid slides back, and then I already have a screwdriver prepared, and here are the screws for the hard drive, which I was kind enough to put in there. And there's a little latch here where you can open up put in the RAM. And actually we have 2 sticks. So what are these? So the first one is a 2 gigabyte, and I believe this one also, it might be either a 4 gigabyte or 2 gigabyte. Or this one I put a label on it because it has this shield on it. So yeah, a 2 gigabyte also. So let's just try to take out the top one and then leave this one in and see if that has any difference. Look at that. Okay, still don't work. Let's try to move this to the top RAM slot. Okay, that actually worked. So now you can see it's booting up. Interesting, so it's the RAM slot that's broken or what? Because if I put this back in the bottom one, if I can. It's a bit finicky about powering on also. Oh, okay, now it works in the bottom slot. That's strange. Maybe it just needed a reseating. Although I need to figure out why it's like not powering on half the time. Okay, so now it's working. How strange. Okay. I do have some, I'm just gonna do a quick clean on the RAM, just to be completely sure it doesn't start giving me issues again. Yeah, I bought these ones where it's combined, and I'm not really happy about it because the wet one gets dry and the dry one gets wet, and they're pain in the ass to take out, and so yeah, I'm not super happy with them, but I'm still gonna use them. I'm just not gonna buy more of them, but they should be completely fine for cleaning the contacts here. Okay, nice and clean. Let's put them back in. Oh, you can't even see what I'm doing, silly. Okay, well, I just cleaned, didn't film it, but I cleaned the RAM. I was pointing the camera in the wrong place, but we are putting it back in now and seeing if it works. It's weird, like sometimes when I plug it in, it doesn't want to power on. It's strange. Now it does. Okay. And we get a picture. Okay, so it works now. So this has 4 gigabytes now, which also should be enough. I do have some more. These are 2 gigabytes. I have, let's see, 2 of those. 2 gigabytes, and then there's a different 2 gigabyte. And then if I wanted more than 4 gigs, I do also have a, yeah. So I have a 4 gigabyte, and then these are 8 gigs, and this is also an 8 gig, but this is a PC3L. So if I wanted to put in a laptop, I would have to use this one. I think, don't remember actually if that one requires PC3L, but I know I had an old ThinkPad Edge something, which used DDR3, and I got it from school, and it only came with 8 gigs of RAM, but it had 2 RAM slots, so I bought this one. But of course, when I had to deliver it back, I took my RAM back because I don't want to give them my RAM. And then it lived in here forever because I don't have a use for it. I have in my my tiny Lenovo, there's also 8 gigs of RAM, but those are 2 4GB sticks. So I guess I could put in 16 in my tiny Lenovo. But my tiny Lenovo is used for workbench PC and doesn't really need more than 8 gigs of RAM, because it barely runs anything, and it uses a web browser and programming software. Not like development software, but programming in the sense of firmware installation things. I just used it today to upgrade the firmware on my microphone because it's having battery drain issues, and I read that there was a firmware update that fixed it because it keeps resetting the internal clock when I powered it on. I had to set the time, and I read somewhere that you should update the firmware. And I didn't even think about updating the firmware on a microphone, but of course that makes totally sense because it's a little Bluetooth thing and it has a firmware. Now that the screws are in, it's pretty simple, this thing, because you just put in the rubber things and then it slides in like so, and it's even shock mounted and everything, and we can try to plug it back in. Now it's powering on. At least the hard drive is powering on. The computer, not so much. Strange. So it's doing the thing again where it's not. Okay, so when I plug in the power, I have to turn it on quickly. But this is probably going to be on 24/7, so it doesn't really matter. So there shouldn't really be anything on here. There isn't. So we'll just put the lid back on, and then I have put on Proxmox Backup Server on this little external USB thing. And yeah, I have a Ventoy here, and actually, in case you didn't know, Ventoy has a configuration program that you can run, and what that allows you to do is change the default settings. So I have it go into the, instead it defaults to this one when you boot it up and you have all your ISOs in a flat thing, but you can actually change it by pressing F3. You can switch between them, but you can change it so the default is the directory one, because I don't know why they wouldn't do that from the beginning, because why would you put your things in directories and then not have them show in directories? Because obviously it still shows the ones that are in the root. But yeah, just a little tip, you can do that. So I have a Linux folder, and I have Proxmox Backup Server version 4. We're just gonna boot it in whatever it wants to boot it in, and that booted fine. Okay, I just measured the power by just turning the screen off, and I have a power meter down there under the table, and it's actually using a bit more than I would like. It's using 25 watts right now. We'll see if I can do some auto tuning once I get into to Proxmox, but it ain't looking good. So yeah, I'll just go through this install. You don't need to see the entire thing. Okay, I just went through the rest of the setup, and one thing that's a bit annoying is that it has assigned a DHCP address, but it wants me to set a static IP. I can't set it to get a DHCP IP constantly, because one thing that I'm gonna do is once I'm done installing this, I'm gonna move it over to my management network, and that has a different subnet than right now. I'm just using my regular LAN connection, so that's gonna be interesting if I can change it, but I'm just gonna test it while it's on the bench here, and then hopefully I'll be able to get it over to the management network without any problems. Okay, so you can see now that it's booted up. I have gotten an address up there which I can put into my browser, and yeah, I guess we'll just go over to the computer and have a look at the configuration inside of Proxmox. I've now moved over to the computer and managed to log in to the Proxmox Backup Server via its IP address. And as I mentioned earlier, right now it's on my LAN network, and I would want it to be on my management network. So what I want to do is give it a DHCP address so that I can control my address from pfSense instead of from the device itself, because that allows me to manage all the IPs more centrally. And I think the only way to do that is through the shell, because there don't seem to be, like we have in Proxmox here, there don't seem to be a network configuration thing. So I'm basically just going to go into the shell, and then I believe it should be in the networks, and then the interfaces, I think it is. So here we can see the built-in interface, so it's called NIC0, I guess. And as far as I can see, what I should be able to do is just remove all of this, and then put DHCP, and now it should get a DHCP address. So I want to save, and then yeah, let's see. So it still has the same address. Maybe I want to apply it somehow. I'll do that. Yeah. Well, yeah, I restarted the networking, so it makes sense that it crashed out. Okay, now I did get the IP address back, and I think I won't give it a DHCP, maybe. I think I need to install the top one here, so DHCPCD-base. Does that work?
Gigabit 01 on the router and IP address finds the network that we're going to be handing IP.
Oh well, I don't know. We need probably DHC client, but yeah, I don't know. We'll try it. Yeah, because usually to renew an IP address I do DHC client. To renew it. So I'm gonna edit this again, and then I'm gonna tell it to be a DHCP. Save that, and then we'll do DH client -r. Well, that didn't work. So I guess we'll do the DHCPCD, see if that does anything. Okay, I read it. And enabling, okay, so it did get a release. And DHCPCD, that's a mouthful. So we'll see if it does that. Oh yeah, it actually worked this time. So we got the IP address. Let's put that in. 287. And this. And yeah, okay, that seemed to work. So we just need to install DHCP first. And I think I should do the nano /host name. And we'll give it the actual host name. So should that be the including the domain name? I don't think it should be. So do save that, and then we'll do that one. Okay, you got the memo here, kind of. Okay, so we got that one, and Is there anything additional I need to configure? I don't think so. We can just do a reboot. Yeah. So now it's consuming about 16 watts, and we'll try to run the auto tune command. I think it's just like that. And did it do anything? Measurement was battery only. I don't know really what that means, but we'll see. Still at 16 watts. I don't know if it really did anything, but I think 16 watts for it probably means like half of it is the hard drive, which I think is decent. That guy. Data store. Yeah, of course I didn't create the data store yet, so we'll do that. I don't know if I need to create the folder first, but I'll add data store, so we'll just call it PBS 02, I guess. Yeah, the other one is called PBS 2 NAS because it's I'll call it local maybe. And then an absolute path of data / local. Because it's not going to be a mounted path, because it's just going to be on the OS drive. So that should be all good. And then I'll make a namespace. And actually, I don't think it's going to be able to reach it, because I have to put it on the management network. So I don't think this will be able to reach out to it. But yeah, the way that I found out you have to do it is you have to create a namespace in here for each node. Because they don't share the same IDs across the node, or they don't synchronize the IDs across my nodes because they're not in a cluster. So that's why I have to create a namespace, because otherwise they'll conflict with each other. So this one will have the that one has to be local. I think that should work, but it won't be able to connect to it. So maybe it does have to connect to it before it will actually add it. Yeah, so I have to put it on the management VLAN. Untagged. Okay, so it's probably on the LAN, right? Yeah, I'm always super confused by this. Untagged. So port 7 is also LAN. So I think I actually want to switch them around, because I want the last port to be a custom. So I'll make it port 7 will not be a member of this. Okay. Yeah, so the management should be untagged on port 7. Yeah, so that should be, this interface is like so confusing. I think the Unify interface is like way better, or Ubiquiti edge switch interface, because this is like so damn, like instead of having, you have the ports listed, but you don't have the VLANs listed like down that way. So it's like, yeah, I don't know, it doesn't give me a great overview. So yeah, so management, you have VLAN or port 7 untagged. Okay, so now it's pretty much just a matter of putting the little server in. So I did consider putting it in my wiring closet, because I do have a space for it down there where it could fit. But I think the shelf down there is getting a bit overcrowded, so I kind of have to put it on top of my switch down there, and I think it fits better to have it here. But yeah, I could always move it at some point. But yeah, I'm also running out of ports down there. So in this one I do have one empty port, but I'm looking at maybe getting an extra switch for the wiring closet. Also 2.5 gigabit one. But yeah, there's not a whole lot of space here, but I have this little short network cable that fits perfectly right here. And this is the port that I set to be management. We'll run this cable back through the hole if I can. I'll put that in, and then this guy can just run kind of, I guess we can lose some cable out here and then run it through the LTT thing here. Snap it in place. I guess I have all the other ones running the other way, but it doesn't really matter. We'll actually plug it into the last one here. So I guess that's fine. Don't actually remember what this is for. This is another loose random power cable. Who knows for what? We'll just stuff that in there. But yeah, it should be able to maybe power on now. Sounds like it's powering on. I can hear the fan at least. And it should make a beep noise because it doesn't have a... There you can hear that. So because it doesn't have a keyboard and monitor plugged in. But we can see there's some network activity. So now I should be able to reach it on my management VLAN because I have a firewall set up so that I can reach management from my own LAN network. But yeah, I think it looks alright sitting here. Yeah, as I said, I might move it down to the basement, not the basement, the networking wiring closet, because it could sit up under my router. I have a little stack with a switch and then my router. And I guess I could put this between here, but it might also become a bit too much heat in the same stack, but I don't know. We'll see. Oh, maybe it's, yeah, I know what. I forgot to set the port 8. Yeah, this is why. So I need to do port 8, 7, sorry. Is set to that. So I need to set that to 99. And we'll do untag. Okay. That should do it. Did it do it? It didn't do it, did it? Apply. It's not applying. Or maybe I just need to reload it. Nope. So port 7. 99. And with the untag, apply. There you go. Okay, now it should be correct. So maybe I need to reboot it again. Because now, yeah, we'll try. Okay, so I'm just copying it from this guy. Should be good. Yeah, that's good. Okay, so that can actually reach it. Do we have the PBS02? And I guess I can change this guy to be PBS02 and leave the same on all the other guys. So these are the excluded guys, and then if I go, we can run now, obviously. Good thing to do that. And then if I go in here, the other backups shouldn't be displayed. They are, strangely enough. That's actually interesting that it still has the other ones, because it's not PBS02. So the storage is still there, but it's not. Ah, yeah, I guess that makes sense, because this one is actually hard-coded to the storage, whereas this one is just a backup job that handles it. So since the storage is still here on the other server, it still kind of works, I guess. Show you the other Proxmox server. So how my deduplication factor was doing. I was curious how the deduplication would do, and as we can see, 27. So that's because a lot of my VMs have the same Windows install, and much of it is just Windows being Windows. And then of course the backups themselves are also it's taking a backup every day, but not much is changing. So I believe I should be able to get a similar deduplication factor here. I do need to add my second Proxmox server to the namespace, to the thing here, but yeah, I think, can I expand any of these? Oh, because I have to click there. Yeah. So yeah, so that one's empty, and that one is currently backing up one of the VMs. So you can see it down here that it's running, and it's going decently fast. I guess we can have a look at the CPU usage on it. So people say that you need a beefy server for Proxmox Backup Server, and yeah, I disagree, because I mean, maybe it's just my use that's really simple, but it doesn't really use any resources at all. Like, this is an ancient CPU and it's still only going like 3%, 6%. So yeah, this will run fine. It's more the power efficiency that is pretty lacking, but it's nice to have it on a physical device. I guess I could put the backups on both servers, or like add it as a remote on the other one so that it would replicate to the physical guy. But yeah, I don't know. It's nice to have it on a separate device, but also a bit sad that I'm adding separate high power consumption. But yeah, I guess that's the drawback. And as I mentioned earlier in the beginning of the video, I could have actually just as easily put the my old Lenovo tiny PC and put that 1 terabyte hard drive, because even though I'm backing up two Proxmox systems that one of them has the 2 terabyte drive and I'm only using about half of it, yeah, since I have such a high deduplication factor, it's not really consuming any space actually. So that 1 terabyte in the tiny PC would be enough for quite a while, until I decide to have a bunch of data on one of them. Then I would start to run out of space, because it wouldn't actually be able to deduplicate real data, not just the Windows installs. So that would be kind of shooting myself in the foot. Whereas with this one, I'm pretty much not gonna run out of space, because the two drives that are in the Proxmox servers aren't enough combined to fill up this drive, even without deduplication. So yeah, that's at least kind of nice. And if I had to buy a 2 terabyte, yeah, that's a Barracuda 2 terabyte. It's pretty expensive actually per terabyte. This is like how much an SSD costs pretty much before the price inflation. So yeah, and this would be what would fit in the tiny PC. Obviously I could also buy like an external hard drive enclosure and use the tiny PC, but then I'm doing USB and it just gets annoying. So yeah, and this is like a SAS thing, I think. Yeah, SAS. It's also expensive. So I guess I could maybe buy like an external hard drive. Some of them you can Ubiquiti Unify, nope. But like something like this is actually okay. This might actually be a great thing if I wanted to use the Lenovo Tiny PC. But this is is it a 1 or 2 terabyte? So it says it's 2 terabyte here. So this is actually pretty cheap. And usually with these you just crack the shell open and then you have a real hard drive inside. So there's a verbatim. But yeah, they're usually not great hard drives, but because they're made to store your family photos, not actually little operating systems. So maybe it doesn't even say if it's a SMR or SHR shingled drive. Doesn't actually say anything about that, and it's not even in stock. So yeah, I'm using what I have, and it's gonna work fine. We can see in Home Assistant my power consumption on the network on the rack here. So it's 184 and I used to use 167. So it's gone up by like, oh, here it's using 79, so 92. So it's gone up a tiny bit. Maybe it will be easier to see on the graph once it has been running for a bit. Yeah, it's going pretty slowly. I don't have any data on the other system, how much that uses in bandwidth. Maybe I can go back and look at my previous videos to see. But yeah, in isolation, this is not great. But I mean, to be honest, it doesn't really matter how fast it is, just that the data is there. So yeah, maybe it's fine. Or maybe I should just keep this other one as the primary target, and then I can add like a, go here in the remotes and then add it as like a separate replication mirror. So my primarily backing up to the VM, and then in case my whole server crashes, then I have this remote system. But then now that I do that, then I might as well set it up on my offsite backup instead of on this guy, because having it on two systems, then I would want one of them to be offsite. Yeah, this is, I hope this was going to be better than it is, but yeah, I don't know. It's now a few days later and the backup has been running for a while. If we go into my data store, I did create a little namespace for it here. And as you can see, it has copied over some stuff, but it's not going so well. If we go over to the primary server, we can see in the tasks up here, I had to restart it today because it had been sitting doing nothing for a bit over a day. And right now it looks like it's doing nothing again because it's not updating the percentage. So I did realize that some of them were copied over and it skipped them. But yeah, if we go over here, we can see that it's pretty much not doing anything on the target system. And whenever it is actively copying, it's about 75 to 100%, or maybe 60. So yeah, this ain't really good. Proxmox can't back up directly to it, as we saw, and now the mirror is also kind of failing. So I think maybe this system is a bit too old for Proxmox Backup Server. But I mean, it was worth a shot, so. And on that note, that pretty much concludes this experiment. So in the beginning, it looked like it was able to run it, and I didn't think that Proxmox Backup Server actually used that many resources. But as it turns out, you actually need a system that's able to respond to whatever's coming in, and this one just doesn't seem to do the job. I might want to see one day if it could run something else, like Open Media Vault, TrueNAS, Unraid, something else, maybe a more lightweight operating system. I know back in the day I used to run Server 2012 on it, which ran pretty well. Not pretty well, but it ran at least. And so maybe if I want to continue with this experiment, I could take my little Lenovo PC, which I have under the table at my workbench, and I could swap that to use as a Proxmox Backup Server, and then I could have a different desktop, which I have sitting around to use as my workbench PC, because I could use a more powerful workbench PC, because it's getting kind of slow to the point where it's running Windows 11, which has been bypassed, and it's not running great. But I want to run Windows because I have a lot of stuff that needs Windows, and I couldn't be bothered with Linux. So yeah, that's a project for a different day. But we can conclude today that this little mini PC here definitely cannot run Proxmox Backup Server, because you can't actually run the backup. But yeah, hopefully you did enjoy the video. If you did, definitely make sure to leave a like down in the comments below. And while you're down there, you could also subscribe. And then I hope to see you next time. Bye for now.